Hi, welcome everyone to Coleman Report Live, April 14th edition. Today we have John Winnick, CEO of Clark Street Capital, and Katie Witsucky. Welcome back. John, thanks for coming on the show. I wanted to bring you on because you have a really unique perspective on the SBA lending industry from a top-down. Tell us what's going on with the PPP Treasury, and what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, so I appreciate the introduction, Joe, and thanks to Katie as well, and thank you everyone for coming here. What I will say first off is everybody is obsessed with these loans. I have every single banker I've talked to in the past couple weeks. I think I've talked to 50, 75, 100 bankers. That's all they're doing. And if you think about it, the PPP program is also the primary workout strategy for banks because certainly any business that's struggling with this awful COVID-19, if they get a forgivable loan that essentially pays 2 months of payroll, plus, it's a 1% coupon, so that's cheap funding, is going to be much more able to make their other obligations. So this is the most single-minded obsession towards any lending product I have ever seen. I think a little patience is in order. The SBA normally does $25 to $30 billion in loans a year, guarantees. This is 15 times that. And they're also expanding the list of lenders by tenfold. The farm credit banks are participating. I think some of the fintech lenders, certainly SBLCs. So you've got all these folks who don't understand SBA lending that are all of a sudden are obsessed with it. So yes, it's been a pretty extraordinary 2 weeks. And it does seem like the money's going to run out shortly, but it sounds like there'll be another $250 billion right after.
It seems like it's a difficult task to get an actual dollar amount and how much is left, but it will pass. Katie's going to give you an update in a couple minutes about what's going on the Hill. John, one last question. We were talking about the Main Street lending facility. Maybe you can briefly give us an update and maybe just your opinions on how that is going to work and how the SBA lenders can use it.
Sure. Well, first off, what's unique about the Main Street lending facility is we have a whole new counterparty. The Federal Reserve, to my knowledge, has never taken actual credit risk. They take interest rate risk, they take liquidity risk, but generally the Fed provides liquidity backed by generally safe assets. And if you think PPP is groundbreaking, this is like a whole nother universe. What makes it complicated is, quite frankly, the SBA lending community, or most banks, are comfortable with the SBA as a counterparty. They're comfortable with the process of making government-guaranteed loans, and if things go bad, collecting on said guarantee. This program is very unique, and I want to highlight a couple things that show you how potentially risky these loans are going to be. Now, your maximum loan amount is limited to 4 times 2019 EBITDA. I won't get into typical terms, but here's a few things that are important here. This essentially has to go to new money. You're prohibited from using this loan program to refinance other debt. You're also prohibited from calling other debt as well. So essentially you have to stand down on your other obligations. You can't pull a line of credit and so on. So let's think about this. If you're going to do new money to a borrower right now, there's really going to be 2 circumstances. One circumstance is you have a business that is doing well and is looking to expand. Well, how many businesses are buying real estate, equipment, or other companies right now? Very few. The vast majority of businesses that need money are having liquidity issues and are losing money. So essentially, these are going to be projection loans based on this business returning back to a post-COVID-19 environment, which is remarkable to me. Now, bear in mind, all we've seen so far is a 1.5-page document, but it does appear that the Fed's going to set up a special purpose vehicle. It's going to fund said vehicle, and the originating bank will be able to sell 95% of the loan to the Fed. Now, different than a guarantee, but there are some things that are involved when you are effectively acting as an agent and a fiduciary. So it isn't clear what these loans are going to look like. And I could sense real apprehension from banks that they'll do these quote-unquote risky loans, and then the Fed's going to turn around if things go bad and ask you to buy the loans back at par. So, this is very uncharted water, but very interesting, and certainly all banks should look at this program, but they should proceed with some level of caution.
Yeah, thanks, John. That's really timely right now. A lot of people are asking us, what's the next step after this 350? Their first is gone. People are finally catching up to the, I guess, technical glitches of E-Tran, and I think everybody doesn't want to be late to the party. So we're really in an interesting week right now. Katie, give us an update. What's Congress doing? I'll let you take it away.
Well, I was kind of looking into it this morning because I really wanted an update and I wanted to be able to give people some confidence. Unfortunately, it looks like Congress is still really trying to struggle to come to an agreement on what a refill of this coronavirus relief program is going to look like and whether that funding is going to be split up among several different kinds of programs. Maybe they really want some of the funding to go toward medical healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, things like that. And they also, and that's understandable, of course, given the situation. And so they want to decide how they're going to help small businesses and hospitals and frontline workers all at once. And that's really the struggle right now. What I'm reading is that it looks like they think they're going to come to some kind of agreement maybe by Thursday. We'll hopefully have a vote at least in the Senate sometime later this week, and then probably not seeing a vote in the House until next week. But that's the problem, is that we're now at less than $138 billion in this program, and so we do need to get the funding it refunded as soon as possible.
And tell us what you wrote about with what Rubio came out with.
Right. So toward the end of the week, we looked at how the program was running and how it looked at the improvements that had to be made throughout the week, because last week was the first full week of it working. And so they listed all of the changes that they've made or the improvements that they've made to the PPP program in this report. And some of the major ones that they listed there were last Wednesday, the U.S. Treasury released the non-SBA application and lender portal so that non-bank lenders and new banks could participate in the program. On Thursday, they announced their intent to create a secondary market for PPP loans and relax regulations on bank leverage ratios. The U.S. Treasury also released an updated FAQ document that allowed lenders to use their own note. And SBA E-Tran server capacity was just recently updated so that they could handle the large capacity that's now trying to use the program. And they've also allotted additional resources to assisting lenders with technical issues. And so really the main issue that they're just continuing to focus on right now is continuing to make sure that we have the money available to continue this program.
John, what do non-bank lenders need to do to get into this? You said everybody's obsessed with it. There's some more guidance that came out this morning. This is all new. Basically, SBA is just updating their FAQ sheet. So I have included the newest one we got, along with the 3 new questions that they answered. But the first one is just on how non-bank lenders can get in. What have you been hearing?
Yeah, I mean, it is a little unclear. I mean, I think obviously the 7 active, or I think there's 12 total SBLCs would be eligible. That seems fairly straightforward. But I mean, this is key. I mean, the qualifications to process, close, disperse, and service PPP loans made with SBA's guarantee. I mean, my personal opinion is is most fintech lenders are credit brain dead. They rely on algorithmic models. I met with some of the leading fintech lenders and was struck by the lack of a credit person in the organization. So it isn't clear yet who they have in mind. My suspicion is it's going to be the SBLC lenders plus other folks that have participated in the 504 program, for example. I'd be really surprised if these pure fintech lenders, fintech consumer-oriented lenders would get approved. But again, SBA has discretion, and by the time these guys are going to get set up, they may be out of money anyway. So,
right.
Good point.
There's a question on the $10 million cap for affiliation of franchises. If the franchise is on the directory, they're okay, they can apply. But the $10 million cap on PPP loans is a limit per franchisee entity. Have you heard anything on that, John?
I mean, I haven't. This program probably should have been means tested. Our firm, for example, I just finished my application 20 minutes ago, and every business in America should do this. The only reason you shouldn't do it is if you have nothing for your employees to do. Then they're better off on unemployment, particularly if they make less than $35 an hour because of generous unemployment where you're getting 100%. So I don't know all the nuances, but clearly the government wants to get this money out as fast as possible and ask questions later. And, this is the complete opposite approach of the 2008 crisis, where I think they learned a little bit from there. Having said that, I suspect there'll be a lot of issues later on about how all this was done.
Absolutely. Couple more. This one's on $10 million cap for affiliation rules for hotels and restaurants. I mean, I think it's going to take a full to get to the entire end of this whole cycle to realize what the impact on hotels and restaurants are. We will still do our hotel webinar this year. It's going to be a fascinating discussion. I don't think we're going to do it next week, but we definitely want to talk about hotels in the next couple of weeks for a webinar. And the last one, John, is simply the Bank Secrecy Act. They're talking about collecting beneficial ownership information. I think it's just a clarification on the 20% ownership. And the
banks have started doing this, I think it was 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Just knowing who's actually in charge. And I think a lot of the kind of shady, foreign condo purchases and so on sort of went away because now banks are kind of required to know a little bit more who owns these LLCs.
Right. Well, thanks, John. I'm going to hold Kelly's question until tomorrow. Kelly, tune in tomorrow and we'll do that. We are doing our webinar tomorrow. Big crowd should be here on submitting and funding the PPP loans with the most current information that we have. Lance is going to be doing that one. And again, I think, yeah, that's it. So, John, thank you. I appreciate you being on. We love your perspective. And Katie, also, thank you for being on. And we hope you guys have a good day. And we'll see you guys soon.
Excellent. Thank you.